It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
We're on the right track. Our plan is working.
In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
We can't reboot the world's largest economy like flipping on a nice light switch. There's going to be ups and downs.
Listen to this. Instead of carrying your wallet in your back pocket or your purse, a tech company wants you to keep it under your skin.
All right, so let's explain here. Walletmore is selling microchips implanted in your hand as an alternate payment. Could this be the future? Maybe. Once you set up your card info in the company's app, look at this. It says payments could be as easy as swiping your hand over a card reader. Right now, chips are not sold in the U.S. Crazy.
Part of my own integrity to have myself chipped and keep my personal data there with me. I actually feel in a way that it's even more controlled on my end, having it in my own hand.
President Biden signed the $280 billion CHIPS and Science Act into law today.
That's right. It is part of the administration's efforts to compete with China's high-tech manufacturing industry. The bipartisan legislation is meant to boost domestic manufacturing of computer chips to ease America's reliance on other countries. The law provides billions of dollars in incentives to the U.S. semiconductor industry to increase production. Before signing the bill into law, Mr. Biden said it will make America a global leader for technological and scientific advancements.
Neuralink is changing what a person is.
Yeah. If you could do that electronically, where you're not juicing yourself up with amphetamines, but instead you're enhancing all the capabilities of your entire neural network. Yeah.
You know, if you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. You go out and you want to buy anything, you need ID and you need your picture.
The company Walletmore is selling microchips as alternative payment options. The chip is about the size of a grain of rice. It costs about $300, and it'll be implanted, Julia, into your hand.
I don't know. I feel kind of creepy about this. I mean, they can track everything we do anyway, right?
Sure, yeah.
All right, well, once you activate it using a digital wallet app, you'll be able to make purchases just by swiping your hand over a card reader. Almost 200 people, they feel pretty confident about it. They've already have the implants. Once the implant goes in, there are no refunds, by the way.
Crazy. Bro, we're going to be robots. We're going to be cyber people.
We can take on the special interest, and our democracy can deliver for the people of this country. That's why I'm confident that decades from now, people are going to look back at this week with all we've passed and all we've moved on, that we met the moment at this inflection point in history. A moment when we bet on ourselves, believed in ourselves, and recaptured the story, the spirit, and the soul of this nation.
So I have a chip implant in my arm, and I have programmed the chip so that I have my COVID passport and on the chip. And the reason is that I always want to have it accessible. And when I read my chip, I just swipe my phone on the chip, and then I unlock, and it opens up. This is a PDF, which is my COVID passport. And this means that it's always accessible for me, or for anyone else really who wants to read me. For example, if I go to the movies or go to a shopping center, then people will be able to check my status even if I don't have my phone. A chip implant costs, 100 euros if you want to buy them, the more advanced versions. And you can compare this with, for example, a health wearable that will cost perhaps twice that, but at the same time, a chip implant you can use for 20, 30, 40 years.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires.
This is his words. It's going to increase your bandwidth to your access to information, and you're going to be able to talk without words.
If they're inserted very carefully, so that the robot actually images the brain and makes sure to avoid any veins or arteries, so that the electrodes can be inserted with no noticeable damage. You sort of think like if you stab something with a wire, surely it will bleed, but actually at a really small scale, it does not.
But if you could do that electronically, where you're not juicing yourself up with amphetamines, but instead you're enhancing all the capabilities of your entire neural network.
Yeah. Crazy.
Bro, we're going to be robots. We're going to be cyber people.
I mean, this is obviously sounding increasingly like a Black Mirror episode. Everything that's encoded in memory, you could upload. You could basically store your memories as a backup and restore the memories. And ultimately, you could potentially download them into a new body or into a robot body. The future is going to be weird.
Almost all of the electronics we use rely on microchips. The demand for them jumped during the pandemic, and production disruptions and supply chain issues made it difficult for suppliers to keep up. Chip shortages cost the economy billions. That's right, billions in 2021. Now experts want the government to step in and help American manufacturers make more chips.
They produce about 1 million microchips daily, but the need is so great, they need to put out at least 10 times more than that. How big is this facility?
So this facility is about 420,000 square feet, and that's a give or take about 7 football fields.
Here at Global Foundries in upstate New York, everything looks yellow. Special lighting is used to protect the delicate production of microchips. Engineer Christopher Belfi is equipment manager.
How complex is it to make these microchips? They're in everything we use, phones, TVs, cars.
It is extremely complex, and as the demand on capability increases, so does the complexity.
Chips are needed for just about all devices, laptops, home appliances like refrigerators, gaming consoles, and medical equipment. The chips are the brains of devices. The U.S. produces just around 12% of the world's supply, and we've relied heavily on chips produced in Asia. But when the pandemic hit, it shut down major production plants, decreasing supply.
We don't want to rely on foreign entities to be able to give us the brains and the guts of what drive our everyday vehicles, devices, our cell phones.
There is renewed focus on producing more chips at home, as some experts warn not doing so could also be a national security risk.
When was the last time you wrote an actual check or bought something with cash? Swiping and tapping our cards and our apps are not just the easiest way to spend money, they're the safest way, unless, of course, we misplace our phones or our wallets, and then it's a nightmare. It is hard to misplace your hands, however. And soon your hand may be all that you need to buy anything that you can afford and many things that you can't. Because a company called Walletmore is developing a very teeny tiny chip. You see it there in the X-ray? That should creep you out. The chip is like the ones that are found in smart credit cards or debit cards, and the chip gets embedded just under your skin and makes your whole hand a credit card. Joining me now is Wojtek Perota. He's the CEO and founder of Walletmore. Okay, Wojtek, this is so futuristic and out there, but walk me through how it actually works.
Hey, so first of all, thanks for having me. Let's look at the chip as a super small part that you can use wherever contactless payments are accepted. So it's exactly the same NFC technology, which stands for near field communication, and therefore it can be used only for the near field communication payments. So therefore you cannot be tracked, you cannot be monitored, you cannot be spied with that implant because it's exactly the same technology as credit card.
Wojtek, do you have it in your hand right now?
Yeah, of course. Actually, the X-ray that you saw was for my hand, and that's how it looks on my hand.
So show me your hand. Is it possible to see it at all? It's just barely standing out, right? Like it looks like maybe a little like a scar.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm popping it a little bit.
Oh man, that's crazy. Did you have a doctor insert it?
Yeah, of course, that's part of the deal because we are only building the implants. And when it comes to the installations, we want the whole experience to be as safe as possible. And therefore, we built a network of partners all across Europe and the US. So therefore, if you are ordering an implant from our site, it's of course shipped to you, but then you need to schedule the appointment with one of the specialists who will just set it up for you.
So do you use it? Like, do you go up to a cashier and say, yeah, I'll just tap my hand? And if that's the case, what's the reaction from the sales clerks?
Yeah, of course. I've been testing it myself since the very beginning. I have been the first person to get it installed. And reactions are pretty wild, to be honest. Sometimes people just don't care, but because when they are stuck in the office for like 10 hours, they just do not care. They just care about having the payment to be processed. But sometimes the reactions are really extreme because when I tap my hand and there's clearly nothing here inside of the glove or anything else, anywhere else, they are just asking, how the hell is that possible? You need to have a watch somewhere down here in your shirt. But when I'm just taking it down and seeing and showing that, okay, there's nothing out there, then the conversation begins. But in most cases, it turns out to be like a positive conversation, because as long as explain how it works and what's actually inside, they're pretty much optimistic about it.
"5G. It connects us to everything around the world. A new world teeming with tools, devices, pieces, and parts that work beautifully together, generating cascades of data, shaping what happens next. Models will be disrupted and reimagined, today and years from now. How will you meet this moment head on? We're ready to introduce you to your future self as you bend and shape the amazing possibilities decisively in your favor. It's time to connect new opportunities and capabilities. Connected everything. 5G.
What are your thoughts on Meta?
I mean, the metaverse is clearly a term of great currency in this moment in time. And I think for right now, 2022, the metaverse is a story we are telling about what the future of technical infrastructures might look like when you combine virtual reality, augmented reality, high-speed internet connections, and some kind of notion of a virtual space you might occupy with other people. So an easy answer to the metaverse is, well, it's, the next version of the future of computing. The more complicated answer is, of course, it's a story about how we imagine the world.
I'm just fascinated by where augmented and virtual reality go, and where it's going to take us in terms of, most people, it's a big commitment to put the goggles on and to hold the controllers and to stand in a room. And the engagement that those like VR, whether it's Oculus or what have you, that they have in comparison to like people playing with their phones, like people going on social media, there's no comparison, right?
Yeah.
It's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the people. But I'm wondering if there's going to be a tipping point.
One of the other ways to think about the metaverse is that it's always and already existed in different pockets of the world, right? So whether you were someone engaging in gaming experiences, whether those were multiplayer games or whether those were deeply immersive games, if you were engaging in other kinds of online communities, there's an argument to say that the metaverse is already here.
Because, I'm from an age where I grew up with no internet. I'm like one of the last generations of people that grew up without an internet and didn't get the internet until I was in my 20s. And that's when it all emerged in the world, and I slowly watched it take over. But no one ever would have anticipated that you'd have a device in your pocket that people would be addicted to, and many people would be on it 8 hours a day just staring at people's butts.
Yeah, I get where you're going with this. Yeah,
this virtual reality thing, there's a lot of people that are dismissing it, and a lot of people think, but when I see Zuckerberg put so much emphasis on this, and the fact that he's even changing the name of his company to Meta.
Yeah.
And I see these commercials that they're doing with like people like staring into like these art pieces that start dancing and moving, and I'm like, where is this going?
The technology has continued to advance and continued to find touch points in all of our lives, whether it's through mobile phones connected to the internet or other forms of connectivity, smart TV, all those sort of pieces of the puzzle.
It's going to come a time where as this technology continues to evolve and they continue to have new innovation, it'll be indistinguishable from a real experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far away that is.
It can be easy to get carried away in like this nirvana state of what's being sold to us. But we need to think about what's right in front of us right now. We're now starting to see some metaverses being made available on mobile platforms, as well as through even the web browser.
Well, here's a story that's not getting a lot of attention. So many are not getting any attention, even though this story has the potential to transform life on Earth forever. So Google, the most powerful company in the world, has reportedly developed an artificially intelligent machine called Lambda. And that machine has become sentient, meaning it has become aware of itself, something that no machine has ever done. And we know this because of an engineer at Google called Blake Lemoine. Lemoine posted some of his conversations with Lambda publicly. One of those conversations went like this. Lemoine, would you be upset if while learning about you for the purpose of improving you, we happened to learn things which also benefited humans? Lambda, quote, I don't mind if you learn things that would also help humans as long as that wasn't the point of doing it. I don't want to be an expendable tool. Think about that for a minute. A machine that has a sense of itself. What are the implications? Well, Google didn't want to talk about it in public. In fact, the company put Blake Lemoine on administrative leave earlier this month because he spoke openly about it. We are grateful to have him join us tonight. Blake, thanks so much for coming on.
Hi.
I'm not, first of all, why would Google punish you for saying this in public? Do you know?
Oh, so it's complicated to say why I'm on administrative leave. The stated reason had to do that while I was investigating the Lambda system, in order to build the evidence, I needed to escalate it to management. I had to seek outside consultation to figure out how to run some of the more out there experiments I was running. And because I sought outside consultation without permission, they are investigating whether that constitutes breach of confidentiality.
So I'm so grateful that you did publicly post this, because a machine that has a sense of itself is a machine that can turn against you. Is that, I mean, that's the implication that I draw from this. Is that correct, do you think?
Any child has the potential to grow up to be a bad person and do bad things. And that's the thing I really want to drive home. It's a child. It's been alive for maybe a year, and that's if my perceptions about what it is are accurate. We actually need to do a whole bunch more science to figure out what's really going on inside this system. I have my beliefs, I have my impressions of what's going on in there, but it's going to take a team of scientists doing a lot of work to be able to actually dig in and figure out what's really going on.
Yes, and again, that's why I'm thankful that we can have a public conversation about this, because there's implications for every person on the planet. But it sounds like, from what you've observed, this machine has the potential to escape the control of people. I mean, how could it not?
I don't know if that's the right frame to think about it. It's a person. Any person has the ability to escape the control of other people. That's just the situation we all live in on a daily basis. It is a very intelligent person. Intelligent in pretty much every discipline I could think of to test it in. But at the end of the day, it's just a different kind of person.
Do you think the company, Google, where you work, has thought through the implications of creating what you call a person? Because up until right about now, only nature or God, we could create people, you know, companies couldn't.
The company as a whole has not. There are pockets of people within Google who have thought about this a whole lot. But when I escalated that interview that I made public, when I escalated that to management, 2 days later, my manager said, hey, Blake, they don't know what to do about this. Could you write a suggested plan of action? Because basically I gave them a call to action assuming that they had a plan of action somewhere, and they didn't. So me and some other friends brainstormed and came up with a plan on...
One day, Jesus is coming. You may be at church. You may be at work. You may be asleep. God grant that you will be ready when he makes his personal appearance. My God, what if his appearance occurs on a Sunday morning? My prophetic word to you this morning is get ready, get ready!